What's up guys, this is Jules, and this is going to be a PvP build for Stam Sorc in the Horns of the Reach patch. So we are Red Guard Sorc, we have 64 points into Stam. Just so you know, these stats are buffed with Major Brutality, as well as the Major Resolve and Major Ward. We have 10k max mag, 25k health, and 36k Stam. 600 mag recovery, 1392 Stam recovery, and 3246 weapon damage. That's going to go up pretty high, but I will explain that in just a bit. We also have 36.5% base crit. The pots that we are using for this build are going to be these ones. They give us immunity to knockbacks, Major Savagery, which is another 10% crit, as well as the restoration of Stam. So we're just going to pop one of these real quick. This brings us up to 1600 Stam recovery, as well as 45.6% weapon crit, which is extremely high for a heavy armor build, especially with the nerf to Thief this patch. It's going to be definitely very necessary to try to get your crit up in other ways. So we're going to be doing that with the weapon crit pots, as well as something else in the gear that we're going to be talking about. As far as the buffs, we're running the Serpent Mundus. We do have the Emperorship Alliance bonus. This is going to give us about 2k extra health. So keep that in mind. You'll probably be around 23.5 health. If you're not comfortable with that, I am running all Stam enchants on the armor, so you could just run 2 Triglyphs or allocate some points into health or something like that. You're going to have a little bit less Stam, but that's a decision that you can make. We're also running the Dubious Kimura Throne, and we have a consistent Minor Berserk. So just to get into the sets that we are wearing 5 heavy and 2 medium, all impen. The 2 medium are going to be our Slime Craw. This is going to give us weapon crit for the 1 piece and Minor Berserk for the 2 piece. Minor Berserk is very good. It's going to equate to a lot of extra damage, and with the 1 piece now being weapon crit, there's basically no other monster set that would be better for this build. If you feel like you lack sustain, you can run Engine Guardian, especially on Sorc. It works very nicely. You could run Bloodspawn if you want more ultimates, but I do think that Slime Craw is going to be best in slot for this build. So again, these are 2 medium. Our 5 heavy is of course going to be Fury. It's kind of hard to touch this set in terms of a heavy armor set that is going to do a lot of damage. So this gives us max health, max Stam, a little bit of weapon damage, and when you take crit damage, you're going to be increasing your weapon damage by 30, stacking up to 25 times. If you're truly playing solo, then Fury is going to get fully procced pretty easily. This gets to 750 weapon damage. You take into account also the Wrath is going to give us 200, and Continuous gives us a little bit more. So if you're fully buffed, you're going to be just under 5k weapon damage. For the jewelry, we're running Agility, tried and true, very good. All robust, all with weapon damage enchants. For the weapons, we're going to be running the Maelstrom Maul, Precise. I made the decision to run Precise over Nirnhone because, again, I just want to be really stacking into those really, basically like very big crits, big damage. I've seen, 10k, 11k, 12k Dawnbreakers, very high dizzies, hitting people for 8, 9k crits. It's a lot of damage. It's very good damage. The sustain is probably average, I would say. You could probably stack more into sustain if you're not comfortable with the 1400. You could probably just change 1 enchant and get up to 1600 or so. But yeah, so the damage is very good. So Maelstrom Maul, Precise. You could run Nirnhone if you wanted to. It's going to be more base damage, but the chance of crit I think is pretty good as well. We don't need the enchant on the Maelstrom Maul, so we're going to be running double dot poisons. Back bar, I am running an empty set gold Nirnhone bow with a weapon damage enchant. The reason that I chose Nirnhone is for more consistent heals. Nirnhone is going to be buffing our heals and our damage, and while powered gives about 100 more on heal ticks, Nirn is going to be buffing our damage as well. And to keep in mind, we have our Hurricane on our back bar and other things like that. So Nirnhone is probably going to be best in slot, in my opinion, if you're looking for an offensive/defensive bar setup. If you do, however, want the most bang for your buck and the most damage, you're going to go infused. That's going to make this weapon damage enchant go up by another 100, and it's going to be approximately like 450 weapon damage when you proc this enchant. To me, I don't think that the 100 weapon damage is worth the static better heals, but that's just my preference. If you like to play very, very offensive, then you can go the infused as well. Just to get into the skills, we're running Streak, Rally, Dizzy Swing, Stampede, Reverse Slice, and Dawnbreaker of Smiting. Backbar, we're running Vigor, Shuffle, Crit Surge, Dark Deal, Hurricane, and Greater Storm Atronach. So just to get into a couple reasons why we're running each of these skills, Streak is going to be our mobility. Keep in mind that if you use this again within 4 seconds, then it's going to cost 50% more, so don't be spamming this. Remember, you only have about 10k max mag. So use this wisely for kiting and for stunning when you can't get off a dizzy. It also deals a little bit of shock damage. It's probably not too common, but you can proc Implosion with this. Rally, of course, is going to be our major brutality, as well as a hot and a burst heal. This comes out of the two-hander line. Dizzy Swing is going to be our main damage, as well as our CC. Stampede is our gap closer. For me, I chose Stampede over Crit Rush. Crit Rush is a little bit more damage. However, Stampede I think works really nicely with Stam Sorc. Because Stam Sorc is so fast, you're going to be having Major Expedition from the Bow Hasty Retreat passive, and you're going to have Minor Expedition from Hurricane. So Stampede is going to make your opponents very slow, and you are very fast moving around them, which just works to your advantage. In my opinion, it just works really well, but you can run Crit Rush if you like. Reverse Slice is going to be our Execute. This is going to be the one that does a little bit less damage, but it does do some splash AoE damage. I like Reverse Slice for Stam Sorc in particular because they have some pretty good AoEs. They have Hurricane going, which is proccing Implosion. They have Dawnbreaker, and Reverse Slice is just a nice cap on that AoE damage if you have multiple targets. You could run Executioner, it's going to hit a little bit harder, but I do think Reverse Slice is going to be probably best in slot for here. Dawnbreaker of Smiting, of course, is fixed, or quote-unquote fixed, depending on your opinion, in the Horns of the Reach patch, so this is going to be a lot of damage, nice dot, and also ACC. Pretty cheap too, pretty much your go-to ultimate for Stam Sorc. Backbar, we're running Resolving Vigor. This is going to be our hot, of course, out of the Alliance War Tree. Shuffle is our major evasion and our snare removal. This comes out of the medium armor tree. Crit Surge gives us major brutality, as well as a heal when we do a critical strike every 1 second. We're of course not running this this skill for major brutality, because if you remember, we already get major brutality from here, and they're not going to stack. But what we are running it for is the heals. The heals are actually pretty low-key, like really good. You're going to be getting heals from Crit Surge, you're going to be getting heals from Vigor, heals from Rally, and heals from Dark Deal. So that's 4 sources of healing. It's pretty good on a class that can be not so squishy, but definitely not as tanky as Stam DK. It kind of makes up for the fact that they don't have major mending to have those 4 different sources of heals, so that's pretty good. Dark Deal is going to be our sustain. This is going to restore health and stamina by bargaining our Magicka. And then, of course, Hurricane. Hurricane is a really great skill. It's a huge AoE. It gets pretty okay damage. It's not great. It's been nerfed in the past, but the damage is decent. It can proc Implosion. It also gives us Major Resolve and Major Ward, which increases our resistances, so we need that. And it gives Minor Expedition, which will stack with the Major Expedition from the Hasty Retreat of Bow. So Hurricane is of course very good. These are kind of like staple skills for Stam Sorc. Of course, Hurricane, Streak, Dark Deal, Crit Surge. I'm pretty sure most Stam Sorcs run as well. So the bars are kind of fixed for Stam Sorc. There's not really very much variety that you can run on a 2-hand bow build because there's like 4 different Stam Sorc skills that you have to get on your bar. But yeah, it's not so bad, and the damage is good, the healing is good, the mobility is good, so it's honestly a really great class. But just to get into the ulti, we're running Greater Storm Atronach. You can pretty much run whatever you want here. The majority of the time you're going to be using Dawnbreaker, but you can run whatever you want on your back bar. You could run Ballista. This is pretty good damage, but again, I like the Dawnbreaker damage more, and I like the CC. You could run Overload, which a lot of Stam Sorcs run. I find it to be kind of clunky. and kind of weird in combat, but it can be pretty good. You can use an overload. You can put like caltrops, trap beast on your back bar, get some good damage, some extra skills in there. I've even seen people like Fangrush do, whatchamacallit, like spell symmetry, where you convert your health to mage, and then you can use Dark Deal to convert your mage to stam. It is a viable back bar ulti, however, I just don't think it's as good for this build in particular. Greatest Storm Atronach, we're not really going to be using this very much, but it is going to be giving us 20% stam recovery through the Daedric Protection. This is better than Werewolf, and with none of the negatives. So you don't take any extra damage, and we have 20% extra stam recovery versus the 15% from Werewolf. So those are pretty much the bars. Again, we are running these pots, the immunity, the savagery, and the stam. But if you feel like your magicka is not good enough in terms of like sustain, just keep in mind that you are getting magicka from Constitution, and you can always just run a second pot for like a tripot or something like that if you're feeling more defensive and less offensive. So just to get into the CP, we do not have any points into Blessed. Usually I would say put points into Bless, probably about 19 or 5%, somewhere in that range. However, we just really wanted to stack damage in this build and see how high we could get that damage without really taking too many of the healing options and stuff like that. So we have Master at Arms 66 for another 22%. 66 into Precise Strikes. This one's really important. It's another 22% for your crits on damage and heals. And remember, with our major savagery pots, we're going to have like 45.6% crit. So this is very, very good. Piercing, we're going to have 3682. And Mighty, 43 for another 10%. For the red tree, we have 66 into Ironclad for 22%. Resistant, 26 for a little bit more of the crit resist. Our crit resist sits at 2,500, which I think is pretty respectable. You really want to sit between 2 and 3K or so. For this tree, we have 64 into Hardy and 64 into Ellie Defender, giving us 13% reduction in both. Make sure you always, always, always have Unchained on any stam character. This is going to be reducing the cost of your next skill by 80% after you get CC'd, and you're getting CC'd constantly, so this is really good for sustain. Again, we don't have any points into quick recovery, but you could allocate some if you want to be a little bit tankier and a little bit less damage. We have 48 into Warlord for 18% break free. 64-64 for Mooncaft and Arcanist. Both of these are magic recovery and stam recovery. Because we're on a stam Sorc, our magic recovery is our stam recovery, so we want to make sure that this is like a decent amount. Tenacity, we have 7. You could probably put a little bit more, but that's just what I put. You could put Sprinter points, but I really didn't like Sprinter. Like, again, you already have Major Expedition and Minor Expedition. Like, how much faster do you really need to be than everybody? So I figured that Tenacity was a little bit better than Sprinter. 37 into Tumbling, because I do dodge roll a lot on Stam Sorc, and I feel like without medium passives, because you're in 5 heavy, you are going to need to reduce that roll dodge a little bit. So that's pretty much the entire build, guys. It's extremely strong. It hits extremely, extremely hard. Another option that we found as well is going to be this. Instead of the Slime Craw and the Agility, you could run this set called Tooth Row. It comes out of Wayrest Sewers, and it is actually a pretty good set and not one that is very well known. This gives us 1,000 max stam, 2 things of weapon crit, also gives us weapon damage, and it gives us major savagery at all times. So if you look at the stat sheet, the stats are going to be pretty close to the original build. The weapon damage is going to be a little bit lower, but our weapon crit's going to be up to 49.3%. Of course, we're not going to use the pots that give us major savagery because we're already getting that from Tooth Row, but this gives us pretty good crit. The damage overall, however, is less. It's about a 1,200 difference in terms of the Dizzy Swing tooltip. And of course, Minor Berserk is going to be buffing all of our damage. So it's not just the Dizzy tooltip, but the Slime Craw and Agility setup is just more damage point blank. This one is more crit, but the other one is more damage. And the other one can accommodate for the lack of crit that this one has with the major savagery pots. However, if you just don't feel like you can sustain the low Magicka regen of the other builds, then this is a pretty good option. You would just run tripods with this, and you would have very good weapon damage still. Like fully buffed, you'd still get up to 5k. You'd have 50% crit. You'd have 1600 stam recovery, and you'd have probably like 1000 or 1100 mag recovery. So it's a really solid setup. It's just that the Slime Craw basically outshines anything that Toothrow could do. But I really like this set, and I think that in the future we can probably mix this in with some other stuff as well, because how much crit that we've lost from Thief and how much crit we don't get from Heavy, this set is pretty good. So I'd keep an eye on this. It might be worthwhile for some other builds in the future. But like I said, I do recommend the Slime Craw and Agility build. It's just straight up more damage, and that's just pretty much it. I just want to thank Bouncy for helping me put this together, and Inigo as well as Parabellum for helping me farm the Toothrow today. So that was pretty much it. And if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, you can just leave them in the comments below. Contact me on Twitch or Twitter. And I hope you have a great day, and I hope you enjoy the build.